Are you an expert in your field?
Do you want your voice to be heard?
Maybe you have a great idea for a show but don't know how to do it.
Well, we can make it happen.
Email the New Jersey Podcast Guys at njpodcastguys@gmail.com. If you're looking to buy or sell a home in New Jersey, contact our Coldwell Banker office in Wayne at 973-694-8000 or call Tim direct at 973-865-0249. You can also visit his website at www.homesinwaynenj.com. Tim's promise to you and your family is to provide you with exceptional real estate service while always working to exceed your expectations. And remember, at Coldwell Banker, we never stop moving.
Welcome to the New Jersey Real Estate Show. Now, here are your hosts, Tim Waller and Matt Josephs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Jersey Real Estate Show. I'm Tim Waller, your host, and sitting to my immediate left is my co-host, Matt Josephs.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
My good friend Matt is also known as the voice of reason. Well, Matt, we have another great show lined up for our listeners today.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad.
And our in-studio guest is Fabio Gulla.
Fabio?
Yes.
The model?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he's the model from First Choice Appraisal Services, Inc. and Jersey Mortgage.
He changed careers.
He's that model.
Oh, okay.
Well, today we're going to discuss with Fabio the real estate appraisal process.
All right.
Which happens to be a very, very hot topic.
Really?
Yes, it's a hot topic for realtors, homeowners, buyers, lenders, and the entire real estate industry.
Okay.
You may ask why. Fabio will tell us later.
Oh.
Fabio, thanks for being here and welcome to the show. Before we get into the highly anticipated question and answer phase, can you please tell our audience about you and your journey as to how you got to where you are today?
Wow, interesting. First, Tim, Matt, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Tim, I can see, as always, as handsome as a man can be.
This is coming from
Flattery.
Fabio.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, you know, there's only so much I could do. I cut my hair and got
If you
into the real
think
estate
if you think the questions are going to be easier because of that, you're wrong.
Listen, I mean,
You
I can
are
only try.
you are the appraiser. You are in the hot seat.
I am in the hot seat. Well, you know, interesting enough. And once again, thanks, guys, for having me here. Interesting stuff. I love talking about this. When I start stuff like this, I like to tell people that I am actually the son of a realtor. Okay, as a rule, real estate on some levels been in my blood for over 40 years. I can clearly remember as a young kid my mother being a real estate agent, and I wasn't more than 7 or 8 years old. Now, we go back some years. I'm 48 years old, okay? So do the math. We're talking about 40 years ago.
I don't know, Matt. He doesn't look a day over 30,
I was
right?
gonna
Well,
say.
thank you.
I was going to say.
But that being said, prior to, the only phone in the house was the phone on the wall. So there were
Right.
no smartphones, there were no computers, there were no going on Zillow or Trulia or, hey, here's the MLS listing, go take a look at it, tell me if you like it before you make me come out on a Saturday night at 9:30 with 2 kids in tow, okay? Because that's the only way you're going to show a house. I can clearly remember doing that. So, and it's interesting enough because in those days you picked up your clients in the car and you showed them the house, and your markets were intrinsically a lot smaller. So my mother worked for a company at the time, it was called Prime Realty. Okay, Arlene Freeman, oh my God, forgive me, no, she's still alive. Arlene, God bless her, I should say, still kicking, was one of my first mentors. So my mom would, come on, you got to get in the car. Ma, where are we going? I got to go show this guy a house. Ma, it's Saturday. Sunday, 8 o'clock. No, we got to go show him the house. So we'd get in the car, we'd go show him the house 13, 14, 15 houses later. And I would say to my mother, why are we still doing this? The guy's not going to buy a house. And she would say to me, and this just stuck in my head as a business moniker, if you don't show it to him, somebody else will, and that's when they buy the house. So it's kind of when you're just knee deep into something already, and you're just, this is it. It's full bore. I got to go. Because if this guy buys a house, he's got to do it with me at this point.
Right.
So that always kind of stuck with me. So I've always kind of, the business entrepreneurial spirit has always been there. Interesting enough, when I got out of college, dating myself again in the late 80s, real estate appraising really wasn't anything that had a name or a tag to. Okay? Realtors at the time were appraising their own sales. Okay? And So an investor or a banker or client would come out and they would say, well, listen, I need a value on something. So they would go out and they'd say, I think the house naturally is worth 2, 3, value is so much different in those days. Okay.
Wait, so you're saying the realtor would just kind of like, figure, like just kind of guess, like take an educated guess as to what the value of the house is?
Absolutely. I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
So now
Now it's getting interesting.
So now I get out of college, Seton Hall University. Okay, I graduate with a communications degree
Another Seton Hall graduate on the show.
because I wanted to be, of all things, an on-air personality. So here we are today. This is as close as
Hey, you made it. All right.
this is as close.
Let's give him a big round of applause.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this is as close
Making
as the dream
dreams
got
come
me.
true.
Yeah, this is my dream right here. So I thank you guys. And Hudson City at the time was a big local bank in Hudson County. And they were handing out equity lines. So they needed somebody to go out and take a look at these properties. Now, mind you, I'm right out of college. I know nothing. My mother's a real estate agent. She says, well, until you figure out what you're going to do with your communications degree, you're going to do something with your life, and you're going to come to work with us. They need these things called appraisers. You're going to learn how to be it. Go do it. Okay? So fine. So they hand me a clipboard, piece of paper, and a pencil. You're going to Jersey City. Ugh. I've never been to Hudson County, Jersey City. Now, this is pre-regentrification. Right. So this, and I say this respectfully for anybody who's listening, Hudson County can agree. This was kind of at the time, it looked like, a land that time had forgotten there for a second, okay? So I go out there, and with pen and paper in hand, I go take snapshots of the outside of these homes, row houses, brownstones, empty lots. They want me to put a value on it. Well, I don't know the first thing about value at the time, but what they had instructed me to do was go into your local real estate agency, find a guy that looked receptive, or for the most part, in those days, mostly women, and go in and see if you can look at their comp books. Now, comp books are short for their comparable books. Now, mind you, nothing online, nothing computerized. There was no internet.
Right.
There are no computers. There's nothing. So you go in and you're looking at a book. And all you're trying to do is find homes that are located within a block or two of your subject property. Now, mind you did not go inside the house. You don't know what the inside looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. If there's even walls, a kitchen, dead bodies in the living room. You have no idea. Okay? But this person's going to get an equity line based on what I tell the bank it's worth. Now, mind you, I'm a young man. I'm out of college. They're paying me at the time, this is going back almost 30 years, $50 to do a ride-by. Well, I can do
Is that what they call drive-bys?
a drive-by,
days?
ride-by, drive-by,
Okay.
right? And not shootings.
Yeah.
So my mother, God bless her soul, being the nice old-fashioned Italian lady that she is, well, my son, he could do 10 a day. Okay, and that's where it started for me.
Okay.
And they would give me the work. I was young. I was very aggressive. I didn't have anything.
So $500 a day.
Well, no. Listen, I couldn't do 10 because in those days you had to figure your way. There was no, Google Maps and everything else. You had to. You're a stranger.
Rand McNally maps.
Real maps.
Yes. In fact, I can tell you right now, I'm just as adapted reading a map as opposed to putting it in. Now, obviously, it's a lot easier.
Sure.
But I can read a map.
Yeah.
I can tell you where we're going.
Turn left in 500 yards.
Into the brick wall. If it's a Jersey City.
Right.
So anyway, that's where it started for me.
Okay.
So, and it goes back that far. And then with the first real estate crash, I'm going to say in the late 80s, they decided that they needed to centralize this type of system and they needed to educate it. They needed to put some guidelines and regulate it. I said that twice, but forgive me. And they came up with this thing called a real estate appraiser. So I said, you know what? I like it. I was good at it. I'm going to go do it. So the process really started there. 1992, really, I think it was the first year they had put out. I could be off by a year or two on that date, but 92 is when I became a real estate appraiser.
Wow. Okay.
So comps, though, before there was a thing as a real estate appraiser, what were all those based on? Just other people's guesses?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, what was there was no standard at how to figure out what the value of property was back before the crash?
Well, interesting enough. let me go back a sec. So I go into a real estate agency and I'm looking at their comp book. These would have been actual closed sales listings. Okay, so a licensed real estate agent went in, measured hopefully correctly, applied the rules of thumb, utility, appeal, how many bedrooms, bathroom, finished basement. So you had, if you were looking at the books, you had a guide. Okay. The question was, I had no idea what my subject looked like. So because I was doing everything from the outside. But then that rule quickly went away because the very first guideline was competency, and you had to actually get into the house itself and then measure it yourself, and room layouts and appeal and things of that nature then kind of really changed. So I don't know if I'm actually answering your question completely, but comparables at the beginning were really, there was no form or function to it. If a realtor felt that there were bedrooms in the basement and he wanted to call them bedrooms, you know,
Really?
you could have a 1,200 square foot row house.
Well, I think lending guidelines were a lot different back then, too, because you had a lot of local banks where people went to their local banker to get their mortgage.
Correct.
So that was different than it is today as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that would have something to do with realtors just being able to pull a price out of the air and call bedrooms when they might not be bedrooms.
Well, you know, it's interesting because bedrooms, depending on your market, and here's where the true value of a real estate appraiser comes into play.
Okay.
There has to be something called geographic competency.
Okay.
The guy's got to know his market area. He has to. He's got to know Wayne. He's got to know what makes Wayne tick. He's got to know Wayne's rules and bylaws. He's got to know what happens at town hall with respect to the building department, what they see as gross living area, what they don't. You've got the federal guidelines, and then you've got your local communal rules and regs, so to speak, because sometimes a guideline in the book doesn't necessarily play with what is typical and standard to a particular community in a neighborhood, let's say in Jersey City, because in Jersey City, and I use Jersey City only simply because they are constantly rewriting their own rules.
And there's a lot of rent control in Jersey City, too.
A lot of rent control in Jersey City, but you'd be amazed because now as a mortgage guy, I do a lot of mortgages, I'll do a lot of open houses in Jersey City, how they're still rewriting their own rules in terms of value. I mean, an open house, and I know we're off the topic a little bit, but to you and I, you being a realtor, me being, in addition to an appraiser, a mortgage guy, you know, people are coming in and they're offering today still $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 above asking, almost on the spot. Now I will do, and I've done open houses where over 100 people have come in on a Sunday to take a look at the house. Okay, and I've assisted the realtor in showing the house because as an appraiser, I know the outlay almost better than they do. You know, just to speak to some of the finite detail to the house. And I've seen offers being written on the roof of the car. No, because you got little competing groups. You got this realtor and her group, this realtor and her group, and they all kind of know each other. And, you know, I'm going to beat Timmy to that. And I know what Timmy's going to offer, so I'm going to come in higher here. And it's interesting because my first thought now as an appraiser is, how's it going to appraise? Okay, because they're going to ask so much above where the market has already established a value.
Right.
So now they're coming in, let's say it's $600,000, they're coming in at $650,000, $665,000, $675,000. Okay? So now there's a gap there. Now, this is going to technically be the new market when it officially gets sold and deeded in the book down at the county as a sales price. Okay? So there's a lot of tug and war there.
Okay, so you mentioned it goes in the book in the county as the sales price, right? So could that have been a way that you figured everything out beforehand as you look and see the history of that property through the years and how, like, you know what I mean?
That's actually, it's a very good question because prior to actual comparable sales, we'd have to go to the county and pull out what's called SR1As.
Okay.
Which are just tax records or sales records on this particular house, especially before all of the centralization of this information. People were flipping houses just mortgage flips, and there was no way to record any of this. So that kind of was a precedent to a lot of the mortgage fraud that happened in the late, 2006, 7, and 8, and by the time that popped. So.
Right.
All right, I just got the high sign that we're approaching a break, but before we go to break, I'm going to ask Fabio the $100,000 question, which I've been waiting very patiently to ask, because the voice of reason has taken over my show.
I'm sorry. I'm just fascinated that there was no standard back then. Go ahead.
So I have a buyer and a seller,
Okay.
both of which you are not forced to buy or sell.
Right.
Agree upon a price, sign a contract at that price. You, Fabio, as the appraiser, comes in and says, time out. The value's not there.
Right.
Why? Don't answer that
Okay.
until after we come back from the break, because
Absolutely.
we have to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
The New Jersey Real Estate Show is brought to you by the law offices of Joseph C. Petriello, located in Wayne, New Jersey. To contact them, call 973-890-7262. That's 973-890-7262. Are you purchasing or refinancing a home? Do you need a free same-day pre-approval? Then call Dean Scaduto from Coldwell Banker Home Loans at 201-322-3456. That's 201-322-3456.
Welcome back to the New Jersey Real Estate Show. During the break, we had asked Fabio the $100,000 question. What do you do when you have a buyer and seller, both of which are not forced to buy or sell, sign a contract price, agree upon that price? Appraiser goes out, happens to be Fabio, and he said, deal's not happening. Why?
Wow, $1 million question. Good stuff. Well, look, there's a few things there. First and foremost, you hope that the realtor, when they listed the property, had some type of sanity in mind. Okay, now I appreciate that the homeowner wants what they want. It might be a beautiful house, and somebody comes in and overachieves for that value. That borrower better come with a very hefty down payment and some additional monies to bring to closing, just in case it doesn't hit the price. And that's basically the 30-second answer. However, to move a property forward through its pace in this market, you have to do it gradually. So now, if you have a little bit of a white elephant, it's a beautiful house, and you really can't comp it against anything else in the neighborhood, you still have to find a value, okay? So realistically, what you're able to do is you can push the adjustments around a little bit. Like by law, I know how far I can push something before it starts to look ridiculous. I know by law, I can be off by value. The good Lord grants us a 5% differential between, reality, your opinion, my opinion, you're going to be a little off. And a lot of it's just some good old-fashioned communication. You got to grab the realtor on the phone and say, hey, listen, I may come in short on this. I want you to know up front, only simply because I know your borrower is going to be pissed off, and I don't want everybody to be angry. So when you take in consideration that you got a white elephant, you try to accommodate the particulars of the home. If it's got a great kitchen, bath, finished things, a lot of people throw a lot of money into basements and sometimes pools and backyards and landscaping that you can't warrant dollar to donut for. You want to give them as much as you can. You want to bridge that gap. But you have to be realistic in doing this. If I have a $500,000 neighborhood, okay, and this thing sold for $660, there's nothing we're going to do to get you to $660. Because what's going to happen is the integrity of that appraisal is just going to break down. You're going to see a ton of adjustments that look like you're just trying to create a value as opposed to report a value. See, I don't create value, I report value.
Okay.
And if you've got...
So in that scenario, though, not to cut you off, in that scenario where you're in a neighborhood of $500,000 houses, this sold for $650, that's really, in real estate terms, the principle of regression.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It's a principle of minimal return. So what happens is you're not going to get every dollar for that house. Now, do we have some latitude? Can we go outside of the neighborhood? Can we find another house that's similar to that? You have to remember there's a substitution principle, which means if I can't buy this house here, where else can I go buy it? Find another market that it's in. It's got to be a comparable market. Now, Wayne, it's a big place. Wayne's got different economic pockets. A lot of people stay in Wayne because, one, it's a great town, but two, they can move from this section to this section to this section. Okay. So you can I don't want to say you can create the value because it's not our job, but we can find a happy medium. And then at some point, if you simply can't make the number, you just got to deliver bad news very quickly.
Like pulling a Band-Aid off quickly.
Very quickly.
It hurts a lot less.
We got a saying in the industry, report good news fast, bad news even faster. And let people negotiate. Just had a deal now, very simple. It was a comparable. The listing agent, very prominent listing agent, said to me, Fabio, it's not going to comp out. Tell your guy to do the best he can. Now, she works with me because she knows I can kind of manage that without actually managing it, okay? Because I'm on the mortgage end. As soon as the appraisal came in, I called her immediately. Called my client. Listen, we're short. We're only short $7,000. Let's meet in the middle. That's the only way this is going to happen because I'm going to tell you, if you're going to send this appraisal back to the appraiser, I already looked at these adjustments. He's being very gracious. You're not going to get another dollar. You're going to waste 2 to 3 weeks in this appraisal rebuttal process that goes absolutely nowhere because it's not in the appraiser's interest to change values anymore. Because if an appraiser changes a value, what does he now just admit?
That he was wrong.
That he's wrong. That he's wrong.
Did I get that and you didn't get that, Tim?
No, you beat me to the punch.
Look at that.
Yep. I was looking at Peter. I thought Peter was sleeping again.
So he can't do it.
Right.
But see, now what happens is he admits he's wrong. The people who gave him the job now think he's incompetent.
And take it away.
And now the guy gets no more work.
Right. So, man, that's a
Well, let me ask you a question.
tough position to be.
Do you think, because sometimes, look, I've been doing real estate for 32 years, and sometimes you present the facts to the seller, and the seller says, oh, no, my house is worth this, this, and this.
Always.
You think it's a good idea to suggest that they have a professional appraisal done at that time?
You know what? I think it's a great idea. But you and I both know that to us, it's a house. To them, it's a home. There is so much subjectivity to that house. When you're going to tell them that their house, that little Timmy, grew up in, and little Janie, isn't worth the $1 million that they think it's worth, and it's closer to $350, they look at you like you're an ass. And it's, excuse my French, and the first thing they want is
Boop, boop, boop. FCC violation. FCC violation. No.
I meant the farm animal.
Right.
And so, yes, because that can sometimes bring them back to reality with comparables and things like that, but it's so subjective.
What are just like when you go or when you would go to appraise a house? Just give me like the 5 things you always looked for.
All right. FCC, here we come. Unlike other things in life, size matters. Okay. In real estate, well, no, because square footage, gross living area.
Oh, it's also the way that, the package comes. It's a total package.
It's a total package.
Here we go down the rabbit hole.
Oh boy, what did I open up?
All right.
But size is important.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, back on point, gentlemen.
All right.
Just dive right in.
Okay. So
We left it off where size is definitely important.
Right,
size, curb appeal is very important.
Sure.
Okay, you walk up to the house from the street. How does it look? Pride of ownership is so important.
Right.
If your lawn looks good, the inside of your house, I can almost bet you looks pretty good. Unless you only had so much money to do one or the other.
Right.
Okay, and I tell people do the inside first.
Right.
Because the outside is grass, it'll grow.
Yeah.
Room layout, very important. Number of bedrooms. There's only, if you really think about it, there's only so many rooms, 2 or 3 in your house that are actually crafted or detailed, and those are your kitchens and your baths. The rest is really just a box.
Right.
Okay. So, you got the size, you got the appeal. Now, it's interesting because in real estate, there's a food chain. Okay. And there's a food chain of hierarchy in terms of, you got your ranches, you got your capes. In fact, no, let me take that back. You got your ranch, you got your bi-level, split level, which they don't make anymore. They will tend to make a bi-level every now and again. They don't make split levels anymore.
And the difference between the bi-level and the split level is?
Well, it's really functional utility. Big word for just saying how the house is split up.
Right.
A bi-level's 2 levels with no basement technically. Split level.
Usually tri-level.
Like a tri-level.
Okay.
So, and then after the tri-level, the cape, because the cape has got multi-utility to it because it's a cape, but then it can be expanded. So people will buy capes for the potential of a cape.
Okay. Room
Right.
to like something you can grow into or build onto as your
Correct.
family grows or whatever.
And then you got the colonial.
oh yes.
All right. Yes, the colonial. He's at the top of the food chain.
Where's the contemporary?
Well, interesting on contemporaries.
Nobody likes those.
Well, they don't, and I'll tell you why.
They
Because
all
what
look
goes
the
out of
same.
style real quick? A contemporary. Just by virtue of the name itself.
Right, right.
I'm here today, I'm gone tomorrow.
Right.
You know, and you look at contemporaries, which are really just very boxy colonials, unless you get onto some very exclusive areas
Yeah.
where, you know, architect really just kind of goes wild on you. Contemporaries are really just boxes with some cool angles on them. All right. And then they kind of lose their value a little bit because it was kind of cool to have all that open air when you walked into a house. But it's lost utility. So, all right, I got a 2-story foyer. But I need an extra bedroom. I got kids. You know what I mean? You can take the open air. So that's kind of where contemporaries are at these days.
And your heating costs are
Yeah, I
through
was
the
just
roof.
gonna say. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Well, bank requirements, how do they limit values?
Well, interesting enough, banks will tell you if they like your comps or not. Banks will tell you if your adjustments are too large. Banks will tell you if your comparables are too old. Banks will tell you if you need to make a time adjustment or not.
So why doesn't the bank just go out there and do it?
Great question.
Well, it's interesting enough, and you know, that's what we used to say. You got to pay somebody. Better pay me. It's the reason why there is a lack of very good appraisers anymore in the industry, because guys like myself have been doing it for 24 years, owned and operated my own shop, had 10 guys running around for me. I took apprentices only so I could educate them the right way, aren't in the industry anymore, because I'm going to go out and I'm going to get licensed. I have to pay for that. I got to get educated, fingerprinted. I got to have 2,000 hours of an apprenticeship. I'm putting my life and my license on the line, and now you're going to tell me what kind of value you need.
Right.
Well, that
Well-
kind of works against what I'm trying to do here.
And this might be a stupid question, but you're saying that the banks tell you that they don't like, you know, your adjustments too high or whatever. Based on what? Because they don't want to spend. They don't want to.
No, they've got safety zones,
And they don't want to get hurt.
and they don't want to get hurt.
Right. Okay. So it's the risk to them. It could, like you could be right is what I'm asking. Like you could be right, but they just don't want. They're not comfortable with that number,
Right.
so they're telling you, no, I don't like that.
Where it really comes into play, Tim's selling a gorgeous $1 million home in an area that's only about $800,000. Now I look at Tim and I say, Tim, it's worth $1 million, buddy. You're right on Pines Lake. It's a gorgeous home. There's only so many lakefront properties. There's not a lot of comparables, okay, because they're traditionally held by second and third time home buyers, which means they're just not flipping lakefronts because they want to hold on to them.
Right.
So Tim says to me, this one's going to be an issue. I said, Tim, I got it because in my heart, I believe the value's there. So I'm going to prove it to you on paper, okay? But the adjustments are excessive, okay? Because now, you know, this has got, first of all, this is a, 4,000 square foot lakefront. And all the other homes in Pines Lake, okay, that are not on the lake, so now you got a $200,000 premium, let's just say, just for being on the lake. So now I got to take a house that's not versus a house that is, make a line adjustment for location, and that adjustment might exceed a bank guideline for a limited line adjustment. But I'm like, listen, throw your line adjustment out. This number is specific and unique to this self-contained neighborhood called Pines Lake in Wayne. It's very warrantable. Nope, throw it out.
So the banking is kind of like the IRS. In other words, if you take too many deductions, a red flag goes up. You're
Absolutely.
going to get audited.
We used to say this, it's like you don't want your patient. You go to the chiropractor because you got to make adjustments to your back. Well, the less the adjustments or the fewer the adjustments in appraising, the better. In fact, they're looking for a cookie cutter. I mean, they're looking for, and it used to drive me nuts because I would articulate, I thought, a very intelligent, cohesive appraisal, and they'd come back and want me to change the silliest thing.
Right.
And I'm like, are you guys even reading these? No, because they take them, they scan them through their system, they look for some buzzwords. If you're there, you're good. If you're not, rewrite the darn thing.
So they don't care that it's unique to that property.
Well, listen, I'm probably making a few enemies here tonight by divulging some of the inner secrets of the industry. But
You have a couple weeks before they'll hear it.
yeah, let me get my money straight now.
Get your ticket ready.
I get my ticket ready.
Yeah.
But no, listen, you can't blame the banks. Only
No,
because,
yeah.
The foreclosures were theirs to bear. And some of the problem was the appraisers in the day, were guys that just hit numbers to hit numbers.
05, 06, 07.
05,
for
06,
example?
07, absolutely. Even prior to that.
So are they overcompensating now?
I think they are to a certain degree, but they want to err on the side of being conservative.
Caution.
And
Sure.
listen, I can appreciate
Yeah,
that. But once again, I don't appraise anymore, so I can kind of give you the dirty little secrets on things and get on with the rest of my life.
Right.
So let me give you an example. You have a Cape Cod. They're asking 400, and then you have 4 comparables. One sold 385. Another one sold at 405, 415.
Okay.
There would be no problem with that appraisal, correct?
No, shouldn't be.
Okay. So my question then is, how do values move forward in a slow market?
Slowly.
Did he just say slowly? Yeah. Okay.
That's
what I
either
thought he said.
sarcasm or just obvious.
I think he was erring on the side of sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you have to understand.
Or he's the Captain Obvious of the show.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I don't want to be Captain Obvious. Well, look.
So my point, like when we go and list properties, we're
Right.
depending on comparable sales.
Right.
Now, there's a difference between a sale and a comparable sale, correct?
Correct.
And that difference is?
Well, that difference is, sales are everywhere. A comparable sale is unique to your particular property. It's like picking an apple in the same apple basket. There has to be some type of continuity there. So now, if you want to move that value forward, you can take your sales, you can make some adjustments to them. You can move your bottom line, let's say from 400 to respectfully within 5%. Let's say you move it to 410, 415, and now the new sale is at 415. Then you take your 415, you move it 5 to 6% because those are the legal limits.
Correct,
That one
okay.
appraising will let you
Right.
have, and that the banks will allow you to do.
Right. So as long as it's within reason, they shouldn't have a problem.
They
with it.
really shouldn't, but once again,
All right. Well, listen, I just got the high sign from Mr. Cornell, our engineer, who does make this show possible. He gave me the 2-minute warning, so I'm going to ask Fabio one last question. And that question is, what's the difference between the quality of appraising today compared to the way it was prior to the financial crisis in 2008?
all right. So you really want me to just make enemies with the last 2 minutes
Absolutely.
of the show?
Nobody makes it this far.
Well, respectfully, I believe the requirements when the management companies came in. Case in point, I was in business for 24 years. I would still be in business today, but the management companies came in and say, you know what, Tim, the relationship you had with Fabio for 24, 25 years no longer exists. We're going to put a management company in the middle of you guys, and you're going to receive all work from this management company. And it was done by the stroke of a pen. So somebody came in and changed my livelihood overnight by virtue of government rule. Okay? Came in and said, we're not going to work together anymore. We're not going to work together anymore. He's coming in. He's going to take a piece of the pie. We're still going to charge $400, $500 for an appraisal. He's going to take $300. I'm going to pay you $2. Well,
Wow.
what do you mean $2? 30 years ago, I was getting $250 for an appraisal.
Wow.
I was getting $350, $400 for an appraisal. Now I'm getting less than half of that. How do I stay in business? How do I maintain my office? Well, technically, that's what happened. You can't maintain an office anymore. You can't keep guys interested now for $100 to do an appraisal. So people left the industry in droves, just left it. Case in point, I became a loan officer. I like the finance end of things anyway, but I was still young enough, thank God, that I could resurrect in another industry.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen. Peter, thank you. Matt, thank you. Fabio,
you're
thank
welcome.
you. It looks like we've reached the end of another great episode. Fabio, it was both an honor and privilege having you here on the show today.
Thank you.
Matt's going to buy you that ticket so you can get out of here before the show airs in
That's
2 weeks.
right. That's right.
And again, we thank you for your valued time and sharing your expertise with our listeners today.
That was my pleasure.
This was extremely helpful, informative, and insightful. And Fabio, if anyone needs to contact you regarding appraisals or mortgage financing, what's the best way for our listeners to contact you?
Well, they can call me direct on the cell.
And that is?
973-610-6386.
Just repeat that one more time.
973 888-610-6386.
Again, thanks, Fabio. Very interesting. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Fabio.
Well, make sure you tune in to the New Jersey Real Estate Show next week. Our last 2 episodes of Season 1 will be devoted to my longtime friend and mentor, Charlie Blumenthal, who suddenly lost his life on December 17th, 2016. I want everyone to know how great he was and how many lives he helped and touched. These will certainly be some memorable and emotional episodes. I will also be joined by my coworker and good friend Bill Lawrence as we discuss the life and times of Charlie Blue. You don't want to miss these final 2 episodes, folks. As always, we thank you for listening to the New Jersey Real Estate Show, and I'll leave you with this quote: "Let the fear and pain of losing inspire and motivate you to keep winning." Stay safe, my friends.